I was asked about how I program sets and reps for younger athletes. So I'll answer that question, then give a little bit more of a macro view. I typically err on the higher rep ranges for most exercises. For the main exercises, we'll typically work in the rep ranges of 8 to 15, and depending on the tempo or the pause variations, we might lower that a little bit too. I like doing this because it's good for them to get a lot of exposure to the load. They can see strength improvements with loads that are nowhere near maximal. And we'll typically keep the number of working sets to 2 or 3. I just think that more than 3 sets can lead to a lot of sloppiness. They're going to do a lot of warm-up sets to keep getting more exposure to the movement pattern and the submaximal loads. And for the Olympic lifts, we'll even work into rep ranges of 5 and 6, pretty much for the same reason as the main lifts like squat, bench, and deadlift. Oftentimes, the difference in loads that a kid can do for 5 reps and 1 rep in the Olympic lifts is actually a pretty close gap. I've worked with a high school kid before that can clean 80 kilos for 5 reps, but then barely squeeze out 1 rep at 90 kilos. So I really slow cook the high load, low rep stuff with them. As they get stronger and start to demonstrate high single rep effort strength, then we'll start programming more lower rep sets. They just have such an untapped and untrained nervous system that the dose of training stress doesn't have to be very potent to elicit adaptation. Just high effort and mindful reps at lower relative loads will develop intra and intermuscular coordination for them. And a few other important considerations I make when working with high school kids is provide a good balance of opportunities for both success and failure. This usually comes in some form of gamified warm-ups. I like to spend the first 10 to 15 minutes of a session doing some sort of jumping or sprinting or some sort of game, and as the time goes on, add more constraints to the activity to make it harder. Let them fail and let them make self-corrections in order to succeed instead of just overcoaching them. I post some examples of this on my Instagram every so often, and the other consideration I make is I hate watching kids just sit around for 2 minutes between sets. They also hate sitting around for 2 minutes between sets, but they also hate doing some sort of mobility work or some time filler drill between sets too. So keep them busy by doing things like skill work, and I hate to say something like vestibular work, but I have nothing else to call it between sets. Give them a low intensity task or game to play that they don't even think about as doing work. Something like this will actually give them a slight boost in energy going into their following sets, keeps their sympathetic nervous system in a heightened state, and stimulates brain activity. It facilitates the expansion of problem solving skills outside the pressure of real competition. One of these days I'll record a full training session with a high school kid that I work with and post it on here too. And I know that wasn't a ton of detail, but I hope that gives a little bit of insight of how I work with high school kids. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.